Do you want to say something about how you came up with your theme as well? Because we didn't
this looks really well.
We're going to do a double back. Marisa and I haven't really talked about this beforehand.
But we can improvise.
But one of my remits on the International Planning Committee was to develop materials that could be used for a study booklet, which is just about, where's David? He's had it very late, which is about to actually appear. We've also had, all the way through the planning for this, the idea that we don't want to have something available in English before it's ready in Spanish. So Taz has been doing absolutely sterling work. I don't know how you keep your production rate with the things he's been translating into Spanish with it. But the idea that we need to get used to that idea. Now, French is a little bit more problematic at the minute because we've been looking for materials that exist already in Spanish to avoid having to translate lots and lots of stuff. And we're not going to have very many Francophone African friends with us, are we? It's in single figures, isn't it?
Oh, much, yes.
Yes, so the dynamic will be different than it was in Africa because we had a lot more friends from Rwanda and Burundi with us there. So we need to be aware of that. So we will be working in 3 languages, but the French group will be much smaller. And Tim is going to be there supporting the French speakers, along with Ruth Lambert and Harry Marumba from Burundi. They're a small team, and it's a very big ask, even if it's only a few people, because it's a very tiring thing to constantly be working in 2 languages. So mainly, the home groups will be bilingual, so they will function in English and in Spanish. But there will be 2 groups that we're working on in a minute that will have French speakers in them. So they perhaps will try and keep them a little bit smaller so that they've got more time. The theme was discerned at a meeting at the International Planning Committee at Moyallen in Northern Ireland back in June of last year. And as a result of that discernment, the theme was chosen, Living the Transformation, and we looked at this passage from Romans 8. So creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. And Marisa went away with a group of friends, but I think it largely, Marisa did the bulk of the work on this, produced a briefing on the theme, so exploring the theme. And then more recently, Julia Ryberg and myself have been working on how we use what kind of materials we produce, how we offer them. So I'll let Marisa start and then I'll take over.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Well, of all the things that I've ever been involved in to do with friends, coming up with the theme for a World Conference or a plenary, I have found the most difficult and painful of processes. I mean, Rachel was there in Moyallen when we came up with the theme for Peru, but I was also there for the theme of the World Conference at Woodbrook, and that was equally a laborious, in fact it really did feel like giving birth, with sort of very, very, very lengthy labour.
Was it a big baby?
Yeah. So it is actually, again, so the analogy sort of, it's good because when it actually appears fully formed, there is a great elation and a feeling of recognition that this is really what we are meant to be offering and looking at. So it was also very interesting that the contribution that was crucial was from Africa, from a friend who did not get a visa to come to Northern Ireland. It felt, we were all very upset about the fact that Cornelius had not been given a visa to come. But he, very faithfully continued to work with us and uphold us. and he sent us some suggestions, and this was what really helped us to bring things together. So living the transformation is really looking at the connection with the work of Pisac. The group that was planning this was very conscious that there should be a sense that the work that will be done in Pisac comes up from the work of Pisac. It's not just sort of, okay, so what are we going to concentrate on this time? Just like, there is no past. We wanted there to be a good grounding in the discernment and the work and the inspiration that had come from Pisac. And so the idea that, we are in this period of transition when the world is facing a lot of upheavals, and from a faith perspective, what we are looking for is a moment of transformation, a moment that the old certainties are going to inevitably come to grief for whatever reason, and out of the uncertainty, even the fear and the foreboding that many people feel, that there is a moment of transformation that enables us to offer good news for a new iteration, a new time, a new period of our human history. So we recognize very strongly the struggles that the early biblical writers of the New Testament would have recognized in their own times, and of course early Quakers in the very, very turbulent times that they lived through. So there is a sense that we too, in our times, are going through a period of crisis, and out of this we need a vision of the transformation that will take us not only to the other side of it, but that will actually have a qualitative change in the experience of the way we live together on this planet. We really have to go for that. It's very important that we don't look away now. It's a time for engagement, and it's a time where we really have to dare to hope for the things that are not yet seen, which again comes into the theme with Romans. When we chose Romans, this particular sort of, I think that it's pretty uncontroversial even amongst liberal friends. What's not to like? There is a sense of longing. There is a sense that we have been waiting for a different world order. We long for this new world order. And it can only come through the acknowledgement and the revealing of our relationships to each other and our relationship to the divine and the creative power of that. And so being peacemakers, being the children of God, it's equivalent. In Matthew it actually says, blessed are those who are peacemakers because they will be called children of God. So looking at the theme, we sort of looked at the various component parts. So the idea of transformation, the idea of the longing, of the new relationships, the idea of what it means to be children of God. And we looked at biblical texts, we looked at Quaker texts, we did some personal reflections, and again, Cornelius contributed a great deal to this process. We had another couple of friends who were asked to contribute to this particular piece of work, and we received some help with that. But really, Cornelius and I, in the end, were the ones who kind of tried to get to the exploration of the theme. Personal piece of reflection. I chose to do a Woodbrook course last September, led by Tim Pete Ashworth, who some of you will know is the biblical study tutor at Woodbrook. And it was looking at the letter to the Romans in its entirety. And I felt that there would be good preparation for me personally for Cabaret and for this work, to really get into some of the stuff that is difficult about the letter of the Romans, and some things that I'm sure many friends, particularly from a liberal tradition, would find really quite difficult. So all the stuff about homosexuality that is in it, and a lot of the other claims that the letter makes. And it was a bit of a revelation for me to really try and understand and see the letter not as a collection of quotes, but actually as what it was, a letter. A letter that is written for a community, by a community. Because again, letter writing in those days was not necessarily an individual pursuit, but was very much something that was done publicly. And the cost of writing a letter, of conveying the letter, and the fact that the letter is conveyed to the community by Phoebe, who is a woman, and it started to sort of unpick some of my own prejudices about what this letter is about. And there smiles my tutor and mentor in matters biblical, and I'm still learning, Janet, even after all the time and your input. I keep on finding new stuff to get excited about. And the loveliest moment of all was, at the end of the course on a Sunday morning, or whichever day of the week it was, Tim actually read it, the whole lot, from the beginning to the end. And it really, really resonates so deeply. And the whole of the letter is a message about the obedience of faith. That's what he says right at the beginning. I'm writing to you to invite you to the obedience of faith. And the obedience of faith, again, his words are so resonant. It's about the hearing, the careful listening. And the being faithful is the trust, to trust in the process. So if I take anything at all about the theme and what is going to happen in Peru, is that we're coming to this with a sense of having to listen extremely carefully for that message that comes through each other, and in engaging with some of our friends who are from different traditions, I believe we have the maximum exposure to what can really teach us. And if we go into this with an attitude of obedience of faith, I really, really hope that it will make a transformative impact on our lives as individuals and on us as communities.
Thank you.
So that was the work that was done prior to. So how do we do? How do we get people to prepare? So we look back at things that have been produced before. So I don't know how many of you saw the study booklet being Salt and Light for the Cabaret experience. That was material that was written specifically as contributions on the theme. From a practical point of view, that then meant work, translating, getting good quality translation, and translation is a slow process. It has to be reviewed, it has to be got right. And things like poetry, there was a contribution, I think the first item was a poem that certainly wasn't translated well into Spanish and didn't really speak to those friends. There was a lot of material, and so it was a bit of a daunting prospect. We had a briefing on the theme, we had suggestions for places to go for inspiration. But from a practical point of view, how do we keep it manageable? And how do we allow friends who are going to work with this to bring something of themselves? So think about Margaret Fell and what canst thou say? So we made a decision that we were going to limit the material that we used actually in the study booklet. So this will be going out to friends very soon. The Spanish one is nearly complete. I've got it in pieces and it's just being pieced together at the minute. So the criteria were, let's find things that are widely available, that friends can go back to and look at the context, and invite people to bring something else into this. So the way that we've worked, we've taken the theme and we've broken it down into 4 elements. Now they are not mutually exclusive, and you may decide that some of the materials we've put for one aspect are more suited to another. But we've taken living the transformation, we've taken the eager longing, we've taken the revealing, so revelation, very biblical concept as well, and we've taken children of God. We're conscious that this is going to be used by friends from lots of different traditions, so people whose concept of God may not include the Bible, who may have to explain that to friends from a very biblically based view of Quakerism. So we've limited ourselves to 4 things. We started off saying we'll only use Romans chapter 8. If you haven't read Romans chapter 8 in its entirety, read it. There will be some awkward bits in it. I have great difficulty with certain bits of Romans 8. So there was lots we can use from Romans 8, and you'll find that we've included quotes from different parts of that chapter. But we went beyond. So Marisa's just mentioned in Matthew, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. So our first source in each of the 4 bits that we're working with are quotations from the Bible. They're all New Testament apart from Psalm 42. We then thought we would take early friends as our next inspiration, because they lived through difficult times, turbulent times. They felt transformed. They created communities that were transformed. Think of some of the writings in chapter 19 of Quaker Faith and Practice, the openings. And so we've restricted it, so we have George Fox. I think we don't have any women actually in our early friends. But we have William Penn, we have Isaac Pennington, and we chose with certain things that spoke to us that we knew there are good translations of. Those of